We're always looking for miracles in our lives. I'd like to share with you some miracles I recently experienced. Life is filled with paradoxes. Joy, pain, tears, celebration. The roller coaster of the cycles and vicissitudes of life. Nowhere is this captured more than in, of all places, what is known as the biblical promised land, the Holy Land, Israel. I just returned from a trip there, and I personally experienced, as so many others have, I'm sure, in their own way, these paradoxes, these miracles, real miracles, while also seeing pain, seeing tears. And the lessons we can learn from this in our lives everywhere. Because at the end of the day, the Holy Land, as Jacob called it in the Bible, is a gate to heaven. It's an interface, a bridge that allows us all to experience deeper states of transcendence in our very material and physical world. So there are many lessons that can be learned from these miracles, from these paradoxes. And I invite you to join me in this special discussion called Tears and Joy in the Holy Land, Diary from Israel. Hi, this is Simon Jacobson, and we'll be speaking about Tears and Joy in the Holy Land, Diary from Israel. This program is dedicated by Lillian Rhea in honor of all the families in Israel for the enlightenment and protection of all souls experiencing pain or fear during these challenging times. And indeed, that is our theme. When we go through our daily routines of life, often we're distracted from the deeper forces at work, simply because we are busy. We're busy with our jobs, with our families, with responsibilities, some things that are necessary in life, some things unnecessary, with our traumas and with our fears and our insecurities. I mean, the list goes on. So when you have your plate full, you don't often listen and hear the music or the deeper forces at work, the deeper beauty, the deeper challenges. But then when something shakes you up and there's a disruption in your life, it wakes you up in a way. I mean, this happened during COVID, if you recall. It's still affecting us. This is happening now, especially with what's going on in the Middle East. People are on edge. It's not that usual comfort, business as usual comfort zone. Or as Warren Buffett puts it, that until the tide is out, you don't know who's been swimming naked. So now that we are more stripped of our security blankets and of our comfort zones, we compelled, it behooves us to look deeper and really realize that all the time those forces are at work. It's just whether we are noticing it or we're not noticing it. When you go to a land like Israel, besides the fact that it's 4,000 years or more of history, right there in a small land, and I say history, Jewish history, Christian history, Muslim history, and that which even precedes it all, biblical history, it's saturated, and the battles that have been fought over Jerusalem are all there right in front of you. You may not always see it, but you can sense it. You can sense the ancient elements in the very sand that you walk on. I visited Hebron, the ancient city of Hebron, the burial place, the Marat HaMachpelah, where Adam and Eve, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah rest. And you can sense it right there as you walk there. I learned that the walls that are standing are over 2,000 years old. We went to a place where there's stones that are close to 4,000 years old, where Abraham entered into Hebron, where he looked out at the meadow and saw the field that he chose to purchase as a burial plot for his beloved wife Sarah. So that very ancient element, even though the United States or other parts of the world also have ancient history, it's just not been documented, or maybe not as personal. And then, of course, there's the region itself and its conflicts, the convergence of so many different cultures, the convergence, of course, enemies with an Arab or Muslim world that majority has declared war against Israel, and there's a war raging right now. So when you're there, everything gets magnified. All the paradoxes of life, all the ups and downs are all amplified when you walk those streets. So I want to share some of my experiences, some of my sentiments, and some of the lessons we can take from all of this. Let's begin on a very positive note. Miracles. We're all looking for miracles in our lives. Oh, we always say, I wish there was a miracle. And whether we mean it as euphemistically or other ways, but we want some breakthrough, something that shows us a sign that there's hope, that there's a future, that there's a bright side, especially when we're dealing with the darker elements of life. We all want to have a miracle. Well, I can tell you that Israel is a walking miracle. Absolutely. I marveled. I was stunned, actually. I remember riding the train from the airport to Herzliya, and then throughout Israel, different places I visited with my family. What was stunning to me was just a few miles away there's a war being fought, a war of life and death. And you cannot know that unless you read the news. You have no idea. Life goes on. So first I saw it almost as a type of sad indifference. You know, here's people are fighting for their lives, people ready to sacrifice themselves to protect the innocent, and people are just going about their lives. But then I thought of it, no, maybe the opposite. Maybe that's the miracle, that it doesn't disrupt everything. Obviously we're aware. When I was there, it was called Yom HaZikaron, the Memorial Day of Israel, and then the Independence Day. They follow one day after the other. So there's plenty of reminders throughout the country of those, the fallen soldiers. So it's not like you forget. But still, there's a certain element of life. Now, is this adapting to a warlike situation? Israel has learned to be resilient? Perhaps. But there's something to be said about that, because I know what trauma can do to people. I see it all the time. It disrupts their entire life. Everything. And here there's a capacity, I don't want to use the word compartmentalize, I don't like that word, but there's a capacity to separate the two. Now remember, every family in Israel is affected by the war. Besides the fact that almost every family has a member in the military, or a friend, or a relative, and so on. But everyone's affected one way or another. And yet, that's one of the miracles I thought was very powerful. I remember when 9/11 happened in the United States, the whole country closed down, basically. So I understand the initial shock. But we're not accustomed to deal with it. So of course everybody goes into red alert. Understanding. So that to me is a miracle, because you have millions and millions of people living there and going about their lives and their businesses. Of course the economy has been affected, but there's something about a type of inner strength and fortitude that remains unwavering even when there's storms around you. That's the sign of a healthy ship, of a powerful, healthy tree, that even though there's a storm, the tree stands strong. That was one thing which, of course, reflects a microcosm of the Jewish nation as a whole. That through all its history, and all its oppression, and all its challenges, this nation of Israel is still here, still standing. Whether you begin from the Egyptian slavery over 3,300 years ago, and then dealing with the Assyrians and the Babylonians and the Persians and the Greeks and the Romans and the Ottomans and the Spanish. I mean, that's just the smallest. And of course the Holocaust itself. And prior to that the pogroms, and prior to that the Inquisition, and prior to that the Crusaders. No way you'd imagine that a nation could survive all that. And yet, amidst all these storms, some ember, some burning flame, some burning spark remains standing. Despite all the obituaries and all the statisticians and all the predictions. So Israel captures that right now. It gives you tremendous strength when you see that. And then you think about 80 years ago, with a nation, the German people, the Nazis, wanting to annihilate every Jew, 6 million. And they regretted the fact that they couldn't get all 11 million, 12 million in Europe, whatever the number was. And then you contrast that, not even a century later. The next miracle, Iran, just a few weeks ago, a month ago, when was it? When they sent the drones and the missiles. And none of them affected Israel. I understand it was due to the military, due to intelligence, and due to the new technologies and smart weapons. And then hearing the news that the president of Iran crashed. Complete anomaly, crashing in the mountains in northwestern Iran. The second in command in the country, second position of leadership, and I believe the foreign minister as well. Right after they launched an unprecedented attack against Israel. Right after they announced that they want to kill and execute the Jewish fellow. Are these coincidences? And I'm not someone that likes to look for these signs and miracles, but certain things you can't ignore. Now, of course, the great miracle I would love to see, we'd all love to see, is the end of the war, the return of the hostages, and once and for all, peace in this world, and a Muslim world that wakes up to the reality that stop declaring war on Israel, be at peace with them, build your life, instead of building hatred against the Jews and against Israel. That would be obviously the greatest miracle. But there's a thing called free will. People have to come to it. But at the same time, we cannot ignore those miracles that we do see. As the Baal Shem Tov says, the difference between a miracle and a natural event is only frequency. If the sun were to rise once in our lifetime, we'd all come running out. Look at this ball on the horizon rising, and we take pictures. I mean, look at a solar eclipse. But since it happens every morning, routine. So miracle is really, nature is simply a bunch of miracles happening one after the other. It's seeing the extraordinary within the ordinary. And when you go to Israel, you feel it. Especially when you pay attention. I was sitting in some of the streets in the Machne Yehuda and Ben Yehuda, these different marketplaces in Jerusalem, and watching people go by, thinking what was on the ground here before us over the years. They said that Jerusalem is a city built upon a city, upon a city. I don't even know how many layers. In Hebron, you feel the same. The gate to heaven, as Jacob put it, an interface, a bridge, Shara Shamayim. You can draw transcendence into your life. And in Israel, you really feel it. So that's why it's called the Holy Land, the Promised Land. Of course, you can get complacent. You can sit and eat shawarma and falafel and pizza and whatever other delights are offered there. But if you're a little sensitive and you step back, you pause and think, miracles abound. And the very existence of Israel and the Jewish people is that miracle. But you see it especially now. One thought. The day I arrived was Wednesday morning. I got a phone call from one of my colleagues who we were working with, who's distributing my book, Torah Meaning for Life. We printed a special edition, as I've mentioned here. Maybe you're aware of it. If not, I'm sharing it now. Inspired actually by President Milei, Javier Milei of Argentina, who was very touched by my book in Spanish. So it inspired me, you know what? Perhaps it can inspire and strengthen and give and empower the soldiers, the military, the IDF. So we printed a special 50,000 print edition, special edition in honor of the Tzahal, which is the IDF, the Tzabah Hagana L'Yisrael, Israel Defense Forces, and to be distributed single-handedly, personally, to each of 50,000 soldiers. So actually the printing happened, the distribution is almost done. So one of the people involved in the distribution said to me, you know, tonight we're having an event, and I'm going to be giving out books, there's going to be a barbecue. So maybe you can come over. I said, how far is it? Probably an hour and a half drive. It ended up being a 2.5 hour drive with traffic. It was down south, minutes away, literally from the Gaza border. As a matter of fact, when you drive there, you see Rafah crossing. We know Rafah is in the news. That's the last stronghold of Hamas. All the controversy about Israel entering there, etc. So this is literally minutes away from there. And there's a training camp, a place called Sa'alim, a training camp, military base. It was indescribable, the experience, meeting hundreds of military, young men and women, 20 years old, 21 years old, young. You should see their faces, alive, joyful, unified, vigilant, determined. When you go there, you don't feel what you hear in the news, especially in the United States, from campuses or from politicians. You see a unified young people ready to protect and defend innocent men, women, and children of Israel. And tomorrow, who knows? I don't even want to mention. They're all prepared to go into Gaza when called upon, and who knows what will happen. Again, that there'll be miracles, let it be natural, that they should all be protected, and that's definitely our prayers and our wishes and so on. But they're ready. They were coming to me to sign the books, looking for inspiration. And the truth is, as I told them, I shared a few words. We posted it. If you want to see it, you can easily access it at meaningfullife.com. We have it on our YouTube channel. I spoke in Hebrew, but we have it with subtitles. And I said, I stand humbled and in awe, embarrassed actually before you, because you are the true heroes. People ready to, there's nothing greater than sacrificing your life to protect others. So the inspiration that brought forth was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Again, I have no words. But there again, I saw a miracle. Because here people, you think, would be terrified, cowering in fear. What's going to happen? And instead, there's this attitude, complete, the word procrastination, laziness, delay, all those features of Western easy life, the comfort zone life, doesn't exist there. It's a sense of urgency, mission. So as much as I feel I'm on a calling and a mission, it was completely at a different level when I see and saw this. So the inspiration of sensing we too are in battle. Some of us is physical battle, some of us is psychological, some of it's spiritual. And an offensive battle, I mean, not just defending against enemies, which of course is necessary. So a renewed sense of urgency. Lesson number 2. The sense of urgency, sense of mission, sense of calling. We all wish that calling would be only for bringing light to the world. And that's the ultimate goal. But sometimes you have to deal with some of the darkness, the enemies around. I was taken for a tour right there in that same area. They built a thing called Little Gaza. It's a replica of Gaza. Over 600 buildings with tunnels, everything. So the military can train in real time what they're going to be facing. You go into the tunnels, it's terrifying. Dark, cramped, claustrophobic, nowhere to go. It's a whole different mindset. So you get a little taste. Not the real thing, obviously. And again, bringing out the need for that urgency, sense of mission. We're on a mission. I felt I was one with them. It's not like they're fighting the battle and I'm sitting in my comfortable cafe or hotel, even though that is technically correct, but you feel an obligation, responsibility. And come back to the United States. I have my mission to speak to you, to teach, to write, to share, together, to join together in fighting the spiritual war, as we've been talking about over the last months. But it's renewed with a renewed vigor, knowing that you have partners that are actually fighting, and I'm not even comparing our war to their war, but it's not separate. We're all part of one larger organism. And when one part of the organism is hurting, the rest is hurting. And part of the organism is strong, the rest is strong. Among other aspects that I saw there, and there's always, wherever you dig, wherever you look, you find all kinds of experiences, was the diversity. The diversity from the what they call the ultra Haredim, the right-wing, ultra-Orthodox Jewish sector, to the other extreme, the secular, the Chilonim. I mean, diversity exists everywhere in the world, but for some reason, maybe because it's close to home, it seems to jump out at me, especially in the Jewish people. Because we all come from the same roots, but yet it branches off to extremes, and everything in between and over and under. So on one hand, that can lead to, of course, tragically, to divisiveness, to conflict, as we unfortunately have seen. But it also teaches us something critical about humanity and about our relationship with God and our higher calling. Life is not meant to be vanilla, one color, one musical note. It was from the outset meant to be diverse, because true beauty can only be found in diversity, the harmony within diversity. As beautiful as the color blue may be, or color red, or green, or whatever your favorite color is, as beautiful as one musical note may be, if you just play the same note, the same color, it will become monotonous. You can't call it beautiful. You could say it's nice, but then, however, different musical notes, with different tones, and different tempos, same thing with different colors, and different hues, and different shades, you combine that in the right order, it creates what we call the harmony within diversity, true beauty. A beautiful face is not just a beautiful nose or eyes or complexion or cheeks or lips or forehead. It's some type of confluence that's almost impossible really to capture, a synergy that does things, a certain synchronicity of many different elements put in the right order. If you put them in the wrong order, it creates chaos. And it can be very, actually disturbing, unnerving. Try to play music backwards or in the wrong order. Or take the same colors in a beautiful masterpiece painting and reorganize them in a disorganized way. But when it's in the right place, it becomes, they all melt together, dissolve into one larger picture. Like a well-written article or a well-written book. Many chapters, many words, but it just flows and you feel it. You feel that harmony, you feel that seamlessness. So as I was walking the streets and visiting and meeting people, the different experiences, I saw that very, very vividly. And perhaps because it's a smaller country and because it's called Israel and because everyone, at least, I mean, there are, of course, the Arabs and the Jews and other cultures, but I was primarily in the Jewish areas, that when you see that, you get a certain appreciation of the harmony within diversity. Can there lead to conflict? Yes, unfortunately it has as well. But that's our job, is to make sure it leads to harmony. And I have to be honest with you, one day I was walking from Mamila, which is not far from the wall, Mamila Hotel. I was meeting some people. I was walking back to a more central part of Jerusalem, Geula. And I was walking along the wall of the old city. And I did walk through Arab neighborhood. I saw it from the language. So that only added to that diversity. My hope was, as I was walking through there, and I think about it now, can we find that same harmony, even with those that have, with many who have sworn our destruction, sworn to our destruction? I personally believe that will happen in our lifetime. But we have to be people who are agents of that, because you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And if you're not, as they say, busy living, you're busy dying. So you and I have to deliberately and proactively declare war against divisiveness, against conflict. Now, I'm not naive. I understand there are people ready to kill you. You can't just say, hey, let's live in harmony. You have to do what you have to do. But I don't believe that the majority are that way, even though the majority may be sympathetic. When I say majority of Muslims may be sympathetic. But I do believe that the more light we hold on to, and the more we capture that mission, that urgency that we need, and more we recognize the miracles around us, and we manifest them, we influence those around us, that has an exponential effect. And I take my lesson from the great Abraham. He, I don't like the word preached, but he pioneered monotheism, virtue, that life is not about the id and about selfish needs and self-interest. Life is about serving, about chesed and tzedakah umishpat, charity, virtue, kindness, justice, all the rights, all the freedoms All the blessings we cherish today, Abraham pioneered. At the time, he was opposed by the entire world. They saw him as a threat. An upstart, a rebel, wanted to kill him, like all pioneers. But he was persistent, him and his wife Sarah, and they built a family, Isaac. And who Isaac built and had children, and those children had children. And here we are, thousands of years later. We're talking about 3,800 years later. So no one's going to tell me, no one should tell us, it's not possible. It's absolutely possible. It happened already. So we need to keep marching in that direction, the march of progress, of taking the mandate of Abraham and teaching it to all his children. Abraham is called the father of all nations because he has a son called Yishmael, who's the ancestor, the forebearer of the Arab Muslim world. He had a son called Isaac, who had a son called Jacob, the forebearer and ancestor of the Jewish people. And Isaac had also another son, Esav, the ancestor and forebearer of the Western Roman Christian world. His grandson was called Rome. All children of Abraham. You'll say, what about the Far East? Well, you ever hear of Brahmin in Buddhism? Brahmin's connected to Abraham as well. Abraham sent some of his family to the east, as the Bible tells us in Genesis. So it's not about taking credit, it's about understanding that we all share common ancestry, all the way back to Adam and Eve. And yes, we've branched off in many different directions, but branching off can lead to divisiveness, war, and conflict, or it can lead to harmony, as we've been discussing. That's the call of the hour. And that's what I go away with coming from Israel, feeling exactly that. What can we do to bring us all together? So you begin, of course, with the low-hanging fruit, the people in your sphere of influence, the people that you can access. You don't start fighting with people who are just closed-minded and just haters. But slowly, like it is in any situation, divide and conquer. When you have, let's say, tangled wires, you can't untangle them all. You untangle the easier tangles. And then you isolate and contain the more difficult ones. But it'll be a lot easier then. The mess is when everything goes one big confusing mess. So we have to provide clarity, strength, direction, guidance, empowerment, confidence. And we have what to stand on. Years of history. You go to Israel, you can draw from there. Draw that energy from the gate to heaven. The interface between heaven and earth. May we all be blessed to marry heaven and earth. Now, in my book, Toward a Meaningful Life, in one of the chapters, I believe, on unity, I write at the end of the chapter, so where does heaven meet earth? People always wonder. The answer is at your doorstep, in your life. When you can bring together matter and spirit, body and soul, form and function, the indeterministic and the deterministic, you are marrying heaven and earth. Israel has that power, but it's up to us, because the final frontier is our choices. And now we have a time. Now is a time when we can rise to the occasion, because there is a wake-up call. The conflicts are all there. The paradoxes abound. The miracles are there. But it's up to us to draw from it, learn our lessons, not be complacent. Fight an aggressive war of offense. What's the war of offense? To bring light into this dark world, to bring clarity, moral clarity, spiritual clarity, psychological clarity, which is the essence of all health. A seamless flow of the divine purpose and our purpose, where they're aligned, that we are living our lives and fulfilling our calling with a sense of urgency and mission. May all the people in Israel and in all the countries, the Muslim countries, the Arab countries, all over the world be at peace, discover their calling, discover the harmony within our diversity. May God protect the soldiers, all innocent people, especially in that special land of providence called the Promised Land. Thank you so much. This has been Simon Jacobson. Meaningful Life Center, meaningfullife.com is our website. Please subscribe to our offerings, to our growing and robust YouTube channel. Love to hear your thoughts, comments, feedback, and of course share. Please share. It's about the ripple effect, the butterfly effect. Thank you and be well.
This program is brought to you by the Meaningful Life Center. Please help us continue our programs. Make even a small contribution at meaningfullife.com/donate.